This is the Ted Wallisham Podcast. Brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And Halenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortinos, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And now, here's Ted.
My guest today is the owner of 6 Grey Cup rings, which he won as both a player and coach of the Toronto Argonaut Football Club. He is a member of the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame, the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, and has been appointed as a member of the Order of Ontario. He also holds honorary degrees at York University, Humber College, and the College of William and Mary, from which he graduated with a degree in economics. He was drafted in 1987 by the Kansas City Chiefs, played there along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, happened to be the last 2 teams to win the Super Bowl. Mike Clemons then joined the Argos in 1989, played until his retirement in 2000, following which he held many managerial roles, including CEO of the Boatmen since 2019. He has served as general manager of the Argonauts, and perhaps his greatest achievement to date was the founding of the PInball Clemons Foundation, providing marginalized youth and racialized youth with educational resources and options to integrate into the mainstream of society. Mike Pinball Clemons. How are you, Mike?
Oh, excellent. Thank you. So nice to see you, Ted.
Nice to see you, too, on this eve of the Eastern Final. Now, we should point out that we're taping this about 5 days in advance of when it actually is available to people. So we don't know who the Argos are facing in the final on Sunday. Do you have a choice?
You know what? I mentioned a little earlier. It's like my wife's cooking. Whatever she puts on the table is great. So we're going to be happy with whatever we're served, and grateful to be in this position.
Yeah, you and your wife are both American citizens, now Canadian citizens, as of 6 years ago?
Yes, that is correct.
And how did you come upon that decision? Was it difficult? Was it something that you made in tandem?
For me, as soon as I came here, that very first year, I had the idea that I could live here. I got married 2 years later, and I guess it was that third off season, and so I didn't want to make her. I didn't want to sort of force that decision on her, and she came to it by herself within the next few years. And at that point, we at some point much earlier, we became landed immigrants. Mm-hmm. And that was good enough for a while. And I never thought of, hey, I'm going to be leaving at any point. But at some point, we just wanted to, make that declaration. We wanted to become Canadian citizens and make it official. And so that was the last step. But since the day I came here more than 30 years ago, I always thought of it potentially as home. And it was in the first couple of years that I really felt that this is my new home.
When you think about it, though, you were born and raised in Dunedin, Florida, which is the winter home of the Toronto Blue Jays. So it was almost like a predetermined thing for you to end up in Toronto and become a Canadian citizen.
Poetic justice, wasn't it?
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed.
I do believe so myself. My mom, she actually did the concessions at because they always had the volunteers from the city come out and do the concessions and that kind of thing. Dunedin being a small city, so they watch their pennies and so got a chance to watch the Blue Jays as well. My my baseball coach as a young guy was also the mayor of the city. And also happened to be a pharmacist. And that's what happens in small town, right?
Yeah, for sure. Now, when you first started to play football, you were in high school at the time, or were you playing when you were still in grade school?
So I started at 8 years old.
8 years old, okay.
And I actually had my jersey retired at a local restaurant by the time I was 11. And so the day of reckoning was when you got to high school, because the really big guys, because they did it by weight. So you had to be a certain weight. If you were over a certain weight, you had to be pushed up to the next tier. And so you didn't play against the real big guys until high school.
Right. And at what point in your youth did you think to yourself, you know what, there might be a career in this for me?
I probably, when I was 21.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in saying that, you kind of, people led to that while I was younger, kind of maybe said, hey, I'm going to see you, but for myself and my size, and I always, tried to be balanced in that way. And I actually chose the University of the College of William and Mary because it's more of an academic institution. It's the second oldest school behind Harvard. And so my other decisions were Harvard and Columbia. And so I was a little bit of a geek and proud of it. And with that, I had chosen a school that was more education, bent towards education. And I actually interned at a company called Honeywell.
Sure.
And they were going to pay for my MBA. I got a chance to work on the space shuttle part on the space shuttle, as well as hand and flight control there in an unmanned space vehicle called Space Shuttle Centaur. And so that was a kind of a cool experience, being able to do that. And they were going to pay for my MBA. So I thought I had life figured out. It really wasn't until my final year playing that, the coach was saying, hey, there are teams that are asking about you. And I still kind of put it to the side, and I ended up getting drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I said, I guess it's real then. So I did show up for training camp.
Do you still have a passion? Is there a passion about the Kansas City Chiefs with you? Like, were you happy when they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago?
Indeed, I was. And as much as anything, I really enjoy players, right? And I've kind of been like that because we didn't have a team early on when I was a kid. So we kind of borrowed that. There was no team in the Tampa Bay area. So we just kind of borrowed from everywhere else. And so the guys you like are the guys you follow. And I'm a big fan of this Patrick Mahomes guy.
Yeah,
he just plays the game with such electricity and he's a known commodity now, but as when he was coming through the first year and second year, was really wonderful to see him grow and blossom. And so when I have that connection both to Tampa as well as Kansas City. But I do have a couple of other further connections as well. I cheer for our Buffalo Bills right across the water here, of course, and their head coach actually went to school with me, and not went to school with me. I'm sorry, went to the same school. He was a William and Mary guy as well as is Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. So. Right. They all, except for Tampa, all are in the same conference, and so it's tough. And they all are competitive right now. So it's nice to see. But I generally, people sort of more than allegiance to the team itself. I'm driven by people, but I always have that feeling of alliance to those clubs.
We're talking to Mike Pinball Clemons. Do you prefer people call you Pinball or Mike? I never asked you that. Yeah. I've known you for years, and I've called you everything, I think.
Yeah,
well, in a nice way.
Yeah, so I prefer what they prefer. Right? So the easiest thing for you, whatever comes to your mind, right? So
all right.
Easy in that way.
I mentioned at the outset that you have won the Grey Cup 6 times, both as a player and as a coach. What was more exciting, the first time you won as a player or when you won as a coach?
The excitement part is winning as a player. The appreciation part is as a coach. As winning as a player is a euphoric out-of-body experience. That was with Rocket Ismail and Wayne Gretzky and John
Candy.
Candy and that group. And when I won it as a coach, it was like winning 50 times, right? Because you won for every guy on that team.
Right.
It's a different experience. It's not as euphoric jumping up and down, but I think there's a higher level of appreciation of the players, what they've gone through, the process that it takes to go from being another team and to actually being a quality team, and then a team that's good enough to win the cup. So I think they both have their own place.
I don't want to spend too much time, Mike, talking about the past as opposed to talking about what you do now. And we certainly want to talk about the foundation and the great work that you do. But just very quickly, tell the people about your experiences with the Argos when John Candy was one of the owners and the kind of commitment that he had to this team.
The one thing that always struck me is he never said goodbye. Right. He'd have all these people around him. And when he was with you, he made you feel like you were the only guy in the world. Yeah. You were the most important person in the world. And someone else you'd either have to feel guilty about taking too much of his time, or someone else would have to pull him away because he gave you his undivided attention. And for those offensive linemen that were on our team at the time, he made them. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to play football. He wanted to not only play football, but he wanted to play for the Toronto Argonauts. Yeah. And those linemen, he was a big guy as well. And he built them up. He says, this is my dream. I couldn't do this, and so I became an actor over here. But this is what I wanted to do. And he shared that with everybody. And the really cool thing is he was naturally funny. He didn't have to rehearse that. Right. And he didn't try to be funny when he was around you. That it happened. Right. But he wasn't trying to. What he wanted to do is he wanted to know about you. He wanted to know your story. He wanted to know if he could help you out in some way, how he can bring you along and make life better for you. That's who he was, and he was so vested. We talk about the team, and the team is the people, right? And he got that. He understood that, and he made us feel like we were Goliath, like we could conquer the world, and it was amazing to see him operate. One of the kindest people that I've ever known and will ever know.
You have a reputation for being an extremely kind man as well, and I know that of you. And I also know that you're the kind of guy who believes in second chances for people. When you coached and now as a GM with the Argos, you're willing to take a guy who has had his difficulties with management and in life in general and say, hey, come here, do this, we can make this happen.
Well, I believe that 100% of us, you say, how many people have made a mistake, right? Raise your hand. I think we get 100% of us. And so it's not so much looking for those guys, right? Because it's important to have character, and we want to have that in-house, right? But if we build a house that does have that as a part of it, and then it's able to embrace more, right? So we've tried to absolutely make a way for those who have challenges, because could have been me, right? Yeah. Growing up to a single parent, it wasn't an easy time, and my mom was amazing, and she's really the Hall of Famer, right? And so because of her, I had an easier pathway. But the idea here is there's not trying to preach, but there's a scripture in the Bible where he's asking how many times should I forgive a man? And he's being sarcastic. He says 7 times, and the response is no, 7 times 70. And so 7 times 70 is the answer, right? If we all do little things on a daily basis that don't represent our very best, and at times, it goes to the other end, and those things represent our worst. And if each of us were known for our worst day, we'd all be pretty miserable people. So I think, we like to say, give people space to get it wrong. As an individual, I reserve the right to be wrong. I'm not going to be right every time. And with that, I can give other people space to get it wrong.
Playing it in team sports teaches children how to grow up to be better members of society and how to work in tandem with other people. Your experiences as not only a football player, but a coach and a general manager, how did that help you? How did that help develop you as a parent now, of a parent of 3 girls? What you learned as a coach and a player?
So I think the parenting had the bigger impact.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
So yes. So being a father of 3 girls is not only an extremely rewarding experience, but it is one where you learn to navigate, and they're not. Yeah. So you learn to work with someone who's not necessarily built like you, right? So the frame of work, or the mental framework of women are at times different from men, and sometimes drastically different. My middle daughter is a mini me, they say, but the other 2 girls really just kind of learning and being able to fully embrace them for who they are and what they are. Parenting in any scope, I think, is the most important job on the planet, and I think it can help you do most any other job.
I think you're right. As we embark upon yet another opportunity for a Grey Cup victory for the Argos, do you find yourself somewhat disappointed at the size of the crowds that you've been able to bring out to BMO? I mean, I know part of it has to do with COVID, but it's just that the CFL has been struggling, and it's a tough thing in a city the size of Toronto when you've got basketball and baseball and hockey up against you.
Not one iota, right? I appreciate every person who has come out to a game this year, and it's not our expectation in this atmosphere. One, that many of our fans would be comfortable coming out and interacting. Certainly, as we began, things have loosened up. Our fan base has increased incrementally, but I really don't see a challenge with getting people out to the stadium. I came back just in the end of 2019, and if we, by March of 2020, there were so many people that were talking about potentially coming out to our first game before the pandemic, sort of became official, I think the middle of March sometime. But we already, had what looked like it was going to be, a pretty full house, back in March at that time. And so I believe the fans are there. I believe the fans will come out. We've got so many great fans, wonderful fans, and I think we also have a great opportunity to make new fans, and so I think that's a great opportunity for us. And so I'm from that standpoint, I'm just grateful for the people who have come out, who do come out, and for those people who have watched on television. Our TV numbers, surprisingly for a lot of people, I think we are, I think only the Maple Leafs maybe beat our TV numbers or have similar kinds of numbers. And I don't know that for sure, but I know the one weekend where there was NFL football, basketball, hockey on. We actually led that weekend, and I'm not a guy who kind of keeps up with that and kind of checks it on a weekly basis. But the TV numbers are there. The Grey Cup is in a non-Olympic year is generally the most viewed event in the country. And the fact is, as we continue to move here, I think, with MLSC and their commitment and dedication, I think as leaders of this product, we will have not just better days, but much better days in relation to attendance, as well as interest in the team.
Yeah. Let's talk about Pinball Clemons Foundation. When did you begin that?
So we began about...
now, when I say 11... we, I mean you and your wife.
Yes. So I guess it's 2007, I think, is when we actually signed up and kind of said, hey, let's do this. And it was probably a little over a year before our first fundraiser. And then from there, we started to build out and support some organizations. And now we've got our tentacles in many different places. And our goal is to take young people from the margins to mainstream, or community to career, not just a job, but gainfully, sustainably employed in careers they desire. And what that looks like is, and it's moving and growing all the time, but young people who are in a shelter, in a homeless shelter, young people who are in marginalized community, and young people who are in challenging or failed foster care situations, right, to complete either post-secondary training or post-secondary education. What does post-secondary training look like? It looks like a 12-week program in the trades where young people will get a chance to experience different trades. After that, 85% of them will finish the program and go into a job. From there, they can expect to make six figures by the time they're 30,
right? If
they stay with it. And so, real great opportunities. The young people who are in IT, it's a 15-week program, and they start out making about $36,000, an average of around $36,000, and which is in many cases more than their parents make, and they're working at the major banks and law firms and different places like that, Google and so they've got a nice trajectory where these companies also have the ability to put them in other programs that will allow them to continue to succeed. And the program itself also allows the young people to upgrade at no cost. They allow them to come back and continue to get more education and more credits. So another program called Foundations in Banking. So these programs actually take young people from where they are to gainful employment in a number of months. On the other side, we also give bursaries to young people who are going to college and university. We also provide books, but more importantly, we provide mentorship.
Right.
And that's the real difference. So the mentorship goes right around all of our programs to help them continue to grow and mature. We have also financial. They also get some financial training as well. So we try to be a full service, and as they have challenges, we try to help meet them where those challenges are, and try to help guide them through them. So that's what the goal is of the foundation, is to take young people from the margins to mainstream, and we're starting to grow and move in different facets and continue to grow the opportunities that are available to young people.
And you do this based on Your financial support comes from individual donations, or have you got corporate donations?
So we have both individual and corporate donations, and now most of our donors are personal or donors. And I like to say that we partner with many of the businesses, and they're also offering internships in many cases as
That's
well. For young people to get started.
For people who would like to get involved, either to help out financially or to get involved in a volunteer basis, and I'm assuming that you're looking for volunteers as well, what's the best way for them to reach out?
PInballfoundation.ca. Yeah, so very simple. Pinball Foundation, spelled out completely, pinballfoundation.ca.
That's great stuff. I congratulate you on the work that you do. I congratulate you and your entire family over at BMO, the Toronto Argonauts organization. Hope to see you in the Grey Cup. Hope you win the Grey Cup. Hope you get your 7th ring. You still got 3 more fingers after that. You got room for all that, Mike.
Yes.
And as usual, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you. And God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much.
God bless you as well, Ted. And you are a legend, my friend. So thank you for what you do. You're so incredible. And I have talking to you is it's like only the two of us are in the room, right? And it's so nice, real pleasure.
I hope there's more people listening.
Oh. That's awesome.
Coming up in just a moment, we'll take you to another cup. This time, the Stanley Cup, and introduce you to the man whose job it is to take care of it.
Ted Woloshyn continues in a moment.
Okay, here we go, down to visit our friend Tom Mahalik at Tom's Place, 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market in Toronto. Tom, of course, has the best selection of suits in the city of Toronto. But now that the winter is upon us, Tom, you need to put something on top of that beautiful suit when you go outside, and you've got some great coats.
We have some great coats that are 50 off. I just like to tell you guys a little story. I was going to switch the car at night, but then I changed my mind. I leave early in the morning, and I said to my wife, "Don't worry, darling, I will move the cars." Well, I went and I moved the cars. Took me about an hour. I had my sport jacket on, my beautiful sweater, and my scarf. But it wasn't enough. I was freezing. So in between trying to move the cars, I said, I got to go back to the house and grab one of those coats, one of those fabulous Tom's Place coats that are 50% off. Huge selection of coats that are 50% off, and they're only $249. I grabbed one of those coats. I put it on. I went back to the car. I didn't know how to reverse it. It took me another half an hour. But it was fine because I had my coat, I had my sweater, I had my scarf, I had my beautiful sport jacket, and a warm pair of pants. So it didn't bother me. So my wife asked me in the morning, "Tom, what took you so long?" Well, I said, I didn't know how to reverse it. I'll never do it again. I will listen to my wife, and I will switch while she's still there.
Tom's Place. Drop by. Coats, suits, jackets, sweaters, everything you need for the cold weather. 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Hey, let me take a moment to tell you about my friends at Helenda's. They are the meat people. You know, I've been a fan of their products for years now, and without a doubt, they make some of the best sausage in Ontario. They are multiple award winners, having captured the Ontario's finest meat competition's coveted Award of Excellence on 3 occasions, in addition to dozens of individual product awards. Helenda's has also received the Grand Champion ribbon at the past 2 Royal Winter Fair's ready-to-eat meat snack competitions. So whether you're preparing a charcuterie board or a full-blown sit-down dinner for your friends or family, you'll find Helenda's award-winning products at fine meat shops throughout the province, now including selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland stores, along with their 7 Helenda's locations. Their barbecued kielbasa is my favorite. On a fresh bun with horseradish, it is out of this world. But don't just take my word for it. Judge for yourself. On your barbecue, in your kitchen, or straight from the refrigerator. Helenda's, the way sausage should taste.
Now back to Ted and his guest.
Hockey fans around the world would probably agree with me when I say that Mike Bolt has an enviable job, well, to say the least anyway. He is a keeper of the cup, and when I say the cup, I mean the Stanley Cup, awarded yearly to the NHL champions. And where the Stanley Cup goes, Mike Bolt goes. And the two have traveled to some fascinating places over the years. Mike, thanks for joining me. It's a real pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's go back here and talk about the origins of Lord Stanley's gift to hockey. When was that?
1893. Well, 1892, Lord Stanley purchased the Stanley Cup for $48 and change and had it brought over from Sheffield, England, is where it was made. And it was first presented to the Montreal Amateur Athletic Association in 1893, with winners going on the cup every year except for the 1919 Spanish influenza, which we can all relate to now after going through the pandemic that we just went through. But we were able to compete through the pandemic. And, of course, Tampa Bay are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions today. And also back in 2004, 2005, we had the season not played, the lockout. So those are the only times the Cup has not been played for since 1893. So
interestingly enough, the Cup is actually older than the NHL.
It is, absolutely. I mean, it used to be the Amateur Hockey Association back in the day. And I mean, it was anybody could play for it. If you look at the Stanley Cup, especially on the bowl part of the Cup, you see a lot of like 1903, 1904, like where it was played 2 or 3 times in the same year, because originally it was called the Challenge Cup. It doesn't actually say Stanley Cup on it. It says from Stanley of Preston. And on the other side, it says the Challenge Cup. And so back in the old days, anybody could play for it, and so you'd have to sometimes be challenged 2 or 3 times to defend your title. And Ottawa, back in those early 1900 days, was dominating the league at the time.
How many Stanley Cups are there?
So there's the official bowl, which Lord Stanley donated back in 1892, that was on the trophy that you see today going on the ice. But the original bowl itself did come off the trophy in the mid '60s. So the bowl that's on there is a replica. Everything else on there is original. And then there's an exact replica that sits on display at the Hall of Fame when the presentation cup is out of the Hall of Fame, which is more often than not, to be honest with you. The cup does a lot of events. Things have, of course, changed during the pandemic, but we're slowly getting back into going back and doing our events throughout the season. As people know, we do travel with the winning team every year. Tampa's first cup, when they won it in the bubble, the cup just stayed in Tampa for the entire duration of the end of their season, which was at the end of October, of course, the year before. And it didn't travel around the world. This year, the World Tour was up and running, both right across Canada and right across the United States. And of course, it was all over Europe too. And now we're like getting back into doing our events with the NHL, our sponsor, our charity events. I just literally got home yesterday. We were down in doing a sled hockey tournament with USA Hockey down in Wayne, New Jersey. And then we had a Hockey Fights Cancer event with Dominic Moore in the city, and then a corporate event in Boston with the National Hockey League. So it's nice to see us getting back going again too.
So that cup that's presented to the winning team, whether it's Game 6 or Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, that cup is the cup that is then presented to members of the team, and they travel with it during the course of the summer and the off season.
Yeah, it's always the official one. Like as I mentioned, the replica earlier, it was built in 1993 when the Hall of Fame opened up its new location at downtown Toronto, and they got special permission through the league to make a second one because, again, the official one was out of the Hall of Fame, and so many people were traveling from long parts of whether it's Canada or even around the world to come see the cup, and it wasn't on display. So we now have the replicas on display for fans to come up see. Looks pretty much exactly the same outside of the fact that it doesn't leave the hall. So it's not with the players. It doesn't have a lot of the character flaws and some of the bumps and bruises, so to speak, on the cup either.
Now, recently we read of a member of the Chicago Blackhawks hockey club, not a player, a member of the club whose name was X'd off the cup because he was involved in some alleged nefarious activities. That's not the first time that somebody's name has been X'd out on the cup, though, is it?
No, I mean, Peter Pockman put his father on the cup. We're talking about two completely different circumstances here. So, I mean, to talk about in 1983, 84, when the Oilers won their first cup, Peter Pockman put his father on the cup to honor his dad, but his dad had nothing to do with the team, and the NHL said you can't do that, and they X'd it out. And then, of course, we had that whole incident and all the stuff, and there's a lot of different debate about the whole thing. This is really honestly the first time I've talked about it in a public forum, to be honest.
And what are your thoughts on it?
I have some thoughts. I don't know if I really want to share them just yet, to be honest with you. It's the whole situation is just a very, very sad and ugly situation, to be honest.
Yeah, it is for sure. Let's talk about the fact that every player, in fact, it's not just the players on the team, but also many of the staff that are involved with the team. They get to possess that cup for a day or two or whatever. How long do they get to keep it for?
It's a day, usually depending on where we are and how we're doing the schedule. You usually arrive around first thing in the morning and finish up at midnight. Sometimes, flights and stuff like that can play a factor. So you may not be able to get to a guy until the afternoon. So you spend all afternoon and night with them, take it at midnight because it is a curfew, and then maybe spend time with them the next day. So it's usually around 12, 15 hours a day is what they'll get with the Stanley Cup.
And you're with the cup every time it moves from
there's myself and a few guys. Myself, Phil Pritchard, Howard Burrow, and Mario Della Sava are the guys that tend to do majority of the travel. So we can be really we pair up a lot too. Myself, Phil, and Mario were just down in Jersey doing the sled hockey tournament because we had a whole bunch of other trophies there with us. But during the summer, it's good to be in pairs. They're long days.
Speaking of Mike Bolte is one of the keepers of the cup, the Stanley Cup, that is. Marty Brodeur, when they won the cup, Marty took the cup with him and his kids to the movies, and they were eating popcorn out of it.
Yes, they were. In downtown Montreal, Marty wanted to share his second cup a little bit more with his kids. Well, he shared all with his kids, obviously, but this one, he gave them a choice of what they wanted to do with it, and they said, "Dad, we want to go to the movies and eat popcorn." And off we went to a movie theater. They were doing the trailers and the previews. Well, we snuck into the theater so people could kind of see the cup coming in. But when we got word had gotten around and when we left the theater, there was quite a huge crowd waiting to see Marty in the cup when we came out of the theater.
Now, when people come up to the cup, there's some strange superstitions surrounding the Stanley Cup. Some people believe that, like, I'm from Toronto and that I shouldn't touch the cup until the Leafs have won the cup, which could be another 100.
You see, for sure, you see fans there are fans in hockey are very passionate and some are superstitious, but to be honest with you, it's okay to touch it. I mean, you're not the reason why the Toronto Maple Leafs didn't win the Stanley Cup because you touched it. At the end of the day, they just didn't get the job done on the ice. So, and if you're not touching it, another Leaf fan will. So, I mean, every group of fans somehow will not touch it until their team wins, and then some fans will. I mean, that's the great thing about the Stanley Cup. It's another trophy that doesn't hide behind glass. You can come up, you can hug it, you can kiss it. And if they feel the need to lift it, I always tell people, go win it. You got to earn the right to pick it up.
You can touch it, you can kiss it, but you can't lift it over your head unless you want it.
Right.
That's a good tradition. I like that.
Yeah.
What are some of the more interesting places that you've traveled with the Cup and with the various players?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough as a Canadian. I've been coast to coast in this country and, right up to the Arctic, to all the provinces, territories. So I've definitely covered the country. I've been in every state in the United States with the Cup. Well, except for Hawaii, but I've been to Hawaii there myself. But we've had the Cup in every state and even Mexico. And then I've even had the pleasure of taking it to the Bahamas. Years ago, I got to go down with the NHL, and we shot a commercial down there right on the beach with the Stanley Cup. That was a lot of fun. And then the first time you bring the Cup to Europe, and especially when the first time you go to Russia, like Russia's a lot like Canada. It's a huge hockey country. And I remember my first trip over there. Phil brought it over there in 97 with the Red Wings, but I got to go over there in 02 with the Red Wings with guys like Igor Larionov and Pavel Datsyuk. And I still remember landing in Siberia in Ekaterinburg, Russia with Pavel Datsyuk. And I honestly thought the president of the United States was on the same flight of us because the motorcade that they had, we were walking down the stairs, was insane. Between protection with military to police escorting us through the streets to our own bodyguards, and then the media trailing in behind. It was quite the motorcade going through Ekaterinburg, Russia with the Cup. It was pretty neat. And you went to Afghanistan. Yeah, that was an amazing. I had the privilege of going over there with the NHL and the NHLPA, and it was just we had some alumni there who played hockey against the troops, and to be in the middle of a war zone was just it's hard to put into words the whole experience, but it was something I'm very proud of and really glad that we got to do. And there's a great story that years ago the NHL sent out. They wanted to go and interview people about their Cup day and find out some interesting stories, and they interviewed Phil and I because we have a lot of Cup stories too. And I told the story about being how we were under attack in Kandahar, and missiles flying in, and I didn't realize what was going on because I missed the safety briefing because I'd gone off to visit some other troops at Forward Operating Base, and it's a pretty good story. I mean, if you want to look my name up, as soon as you Google my name, Mike Bolt, that's the first thing that usually pops up is the cartoon about the whole story. And I mean, again, I'm in the war zone. I had the Marines fly us across the Afghan terrain. And that's when I realized that we were really in a war zone because the guns are pointed down at the ground. At the time, I didn't realize that Special Forces was following us in case we got shot down to come and get us. And wow. It was incredible. Like when we got to the Forward Operating Base, I was amazed at how many jerseys came out of the woodwork. And it was explained to me by the general that you always bring a little taste of home. So these were a lot of Canadian troops that, from different parts of Canada, and they brought their hockey jersey with them, and they were able to get pictures with a cup in Afghanistan. And afterwards, we flew back to Kandahar, and this is where I did not go back with the rest of the group that I went over to Kandahar with. And I'm sitting in my room when the air raid siren went off, and I didn't know what to do. And I'm looking for direction, and nobody was around because they were all taking cover in a bunker, which I didn't know. And so I sat on the cup case, just waited for it to stop. I didn't see any missiles come in or anything like that, but that's the old Scud missiles that the Taliban point at the base, hoping to hit some structure. And luckily everything was fine, but I could hear the fighter jets taking off for the whole bit, but it was quite the experience. But again, just to be over there for those men and women, that those people have an unbelievable, like their job and what they have to do on a day-to-day basis is just remarkable.
Yeah. I guess you get some pretty behind the scenes peeks into the workings of NASA as well, courtesy of the Stanley Cup.
That's probably, the Stanley Cup opens up a lot of crazy doors. And that's probably the biggest door that I ever entered. I didn't quite realize it at the time until afterwards. But in 2004, Jay Feaster, the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning when they won, was invited for an off-the-books tour at Kennedy Space Center on the condition that he brings the Stanley Cup, of course. Well, I ride the Cup's coattails, and off we went. And I got to tell you, I got to walk underneath the shuttle. I was in the assembly building. We had the Cup on the launch pad. We actually brought the Cup and put it right by the hatch. And it wasn't for the safety of the Cup, but more the safety of the shuttle, because this shuttle was going into space in about 3 months. And so we couldn't bring the Cup on the shuttle, but we actually physically got to walk on to into the big cargo bay area of the space shuttle. And I mean, that was just incredible. Everything was open, and just seeing the technology and what's involved in that. I never felt dumber in my life, to be honest with you. Just like, who thinks this stuff up? And then, of course, fast forward to 2011, as my friends call me, Forrest Gump sometimes. There's Mike going back to the Kennedy Space Center again, getting to go on the space shuttle again. And this time we got to bring the Cup on the space shuttle. And we actually brought it into the cockpit of the shuttle. And the Cup barely fit through the hatch to get it up into the cockpit. But the photos that we got from inside the cockpit with the Stanley Cup is, again, really, really awesome.
Yeah, I'm imagining it would be too.
Yeah, and and then another funny story. Fast forward to the next years, a couple of years later, when the LA Kings won the Stanley Cup, and Luc Robitaille was doing a big thing at UCLA with the Stanley Cup at halftime, and we're there, and we do the big show out on the field and the congratulations and stuff, and we're taking off the field and heading up the ramp with security and the golf carts, and we're heading to our cars. And we're going by this big hangar, and Luke just stops the golf cart, and he's jumping around because inside the hangar is one of the retired space shuttles that UCLA got. And I'm just sitting back, laid back in the old golf cart, like no big deal. And he's trying to find security to get us inside. And he's like, Mike, we're going to get a picture with the Stanley Cup next to the shuttle. I go, Luke, I don't need to stand next to the shuttle with the Stanley Cup. I've been on 2 of them already. And he didn't he loved me. He goes, is there anything you guys haven't done? I'm like, it's pretty hard, but don't get me wrong, it was always cool to be by the shuttle, but I was just trying to give him the perspective. Hey, I've been on 2 of them. I don't need to stand next to it.
Yeah. Must be really cool. Mike Bolt is with me. He's one of the keepers of the Stanley Cup. What must be really cool for a hockey player, because a lot of these guys, when they're young kids, they go down to the Hockey Hall of Fame. They get a picture taken of themselves beside the Stanley Cup. And then fast forward 5, 10, 15 years later, there they go again with another picture with them. But this time it's because they won the Stanley Cup. So they got like two pictures from 10 or 20 years apart.
You're right. I mean, I see it all the time. Players will show me. TJ Oshie comes to mind. He'd seen the cup twice, and both times I was actually the guy that brought it. It was at USA hockey tournaments he was playing in as a kid, and then I got to bring the cup to his house when he actually won it with the Washington Capitals, and he was showing me these pictures. One, I kind of felt old, but I also felt that's pretty cool that he actually, got to, he's got pictures of him with the cup when he was a kid, and then of course he's got pictures of him hoisting the cup on the ice, and then having the pleasure of having the cup in his home in Minnesota.
And it's got to be a really cool feeling to look at the cup and the band, which has the name of the team and all the employees of the team on there, to see your name on them. But then again, if you're somebody like Kenny Reardon, who's above his name is Frank Selke Jr., manager, Montreal Canadiens, but next to that is Kenny Reardon, Assman, ASSMAN. Which is short for assistant manager.
Well, obviously assistant manager, but it was like, Kenny Reardon, Assman. And that band is actually retired into the Hall of Fame. We haven't talked about that, but the cup has not changed shape since 1948 when it was designed into the shape you see today. And so what we do is when the bottom ring fills up, you can fit 13 teams per ring. And so we've actually got 9 spaces left on the bottom ring. And we'll take the top ring off and retire to the Hall of Fame. So the longest you can be on the cup is 65 years, and the shortest is 52. So the Kenny Reardon Assman, that band is now retired in the Hockey Hall of Fame in downtown Toronto.
So how many more years before the Leaf band retires?
It's got 9 years left.
So we got 9 years to win it. Otherwise, we're gone.
9 years till the 1967 Leafs come up. That is correct.
It's fascinating. It's been fascinating chatting with you, Mike. I appreciate you taking the time, and all the best to you.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Mike Bolte. He is one of the keepers of the Stanley Cup.
The Ted Wallisham podcast has been brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And Helenda's, the Meat People. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Helenda's, the way sausage should taste. The Ted Wallisham podcast is produced by Joey Roselli. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. I'm Becky Coles. Submit your questions and comments to ted@twmedia.ca.